Hello. Today I'm working on an Advent Monza E1 laptop. I've not worked on an Advent laptop before. This one is stuck in automatic repair. I think there's something wrong with the hard drive, but I'm not exactly sure. I haven't really done anything to this yet, so I'm going to have a look. I'm going to start by taking out the battery. The drive is underneath this case, so we'll need to open it up. Oh, well, this case is already coming open, so clearly you don't have to remove the optical drive. So I can see that the case is already basically half open. So I'll just go around the perimeter. I can see there are audio jacks coming through the bottom case here that are kind of captured by this plastic. So I don't think I'll be able to lift this end up. I'll probably have to lift this end up. And I can see that, yeah, there's nothing captive. Like, if this were to go up, that's free, that's recessed. So I think I'm gonna start on this side and lift up. Not bad. Relatively clean. Cleaner than most of the laptops that I see, in fact. And looking inside here, as I expected, there's a mechanical hard drive. So this optical drive, yeah, there's a separate screw. It's not meant to slide out. I'm really glad I didn't pry on that, and assuming it was like all other laptops. So this thing's, it looks pretty easy to work on. There's two memory banks here. It looks like DDR3. Let's get that hard drive out and have a look at it, and we'll see if we can clone it for safety to try to make sure that we don't lose any data. Oh, so the brand name Advent is kind of known for their stereo systems or their speakers, and so I can see there's two rather big speakers for a laptop in here. There's no speaker enclosure to speak of, but there are big drivers in here, so I bet it has pretty good sound for a laptop, you know. So are there any other screws? I don't think so. So they should slide back. Very sharp edges on this hard drive caddy. There we go. So this hard drive was manufactured in 2011, July 2011. So this hard drive is 10 years old. It's no surprise that a 10-year-old hard drive would begin to have issues. So definitely going to clone this, and hopefully we won't lose, hopefully the customer hasn't lost any data because of a failing drive. We'll see. We'll find out shortly here. So it's a 600 gigabyte hard drive that is 5% used. So we could definitely get away with a 250 gigabyte hard or SSD. Okay, so there's the customer's 600 gigabyte hard drive that's 5% in use, and then here is a blank 250 gig SSD. So I will copy the customer's disk onto the SSD, and it will resize the partitions. I'm tempted to change the CMOS battery while I'm in here. I've not seen a sticker on the CMOS battery before. So it's 3 volts. bought a bunch of these for this very purpose, so I'm going to just go ahead. This laptop is 10 years old. It's going to need a CMOS battery pretty soon, so we might as well get in front of that. Okay, I feel like this has definitely stalled at 31%. I'm tempted to cancel and run check disk, so that's what I'm going to try here. Okay, we're back. It's Saturday morning, and this hard drive that was in here is unreadable. I've been unable to make a clone of it. I've been unable to make a backup of it. Right now I'm using disk snapshot software, or drive snapshot, sorry, to just copy what I can. It's ignoring read errors. Loads of sectors have read errors. It looks like hopefully we'll at least be able to recover the data off of this drive. I haven't tried accessing it directly in Explorer. I wanted to try to get a snapshot, a clone of it first, and that failed, so I wanted to try to at least get a backup so I have something saved, because if it's getting worse over time, then I don't want to keep using it, making it worse. So at least until I have whatever I can backed up. So I'm going to let that go. I'm going to install an SSD in here. This was partially cloned, but I can wipe it during the install process. And so I'm just going to pop this in there and install Windows from scratch, which I never prefer to do that. I always prefer to do a clone so that the customer's data is all there and they don't have to reinstall apps or anything. But I just didn't have a choice this time because of a failing drive. I've not seen a bracket like this before. Where one screw is on the bottom. This is a shuttle, so that's not the factory battery. I think I'll look it up. So the computer tried to boot off of the half clone that I have in there. So this is the new SSD that I tried to clone the old hard drive onto. It successfully copied the boot partition but failed to copy the rest, so now Windows is very unhappy and this will never recover. So I'm going to boot off of my Windows 10 boot media and install Windows. This computer came with Windows 7 Home Premium, so I will install Windows 10 Home. And we don't need a product key, because the digital license should carry over once it gets online and verifies with Microsoft the serial number of the CPU or whatever it uses to check. So here is our half cloned disk. So I'm just going to delete these partitions. Okay, I've not seen that before. I mean, obviously I've seen the IRQ not less or equal blue screen, but not during the Windows 10 install process. So I'll press F7 to boot, and we'll try this again. I think there might be a problem with heat. there's a spot on this computer that's extremely hot, and I've only just now heard the fan. So I think I'm going to take this apart again, and oh yeah, wow, this is really hot. The charging cable is hot. There might be a power problem. So I'm going to do some more investigation before I go any further. So let's open it up again. The second time is always so much easier than the first time. Right, so we have a lot of heat up here. Right? Yeah. And the CPU is here. I can hear some electromagnetic interference. I can hear it's emitting a squeal. Kind of a cross between a buzz and a squeal. There's a coil here. There's a couple of coils. One's exposed, one's covered. Alright, I'm going to put the battery in place because it's potentially related to the battery charging circuit. So that charging lead goes in at an angle. So there's a flashing LED, and I can hear when it's on. I hear the EMI changing. And there's general warmth, but there's nothing very hot over here. So I'm going to open it and turn it on. Now the charging lead is getting very hot. Not very hot, it's warming up. Yeah, it's getting very hot. Okay, what is drawing so much current? I'm going to take the battery out. Yeah, there's a short on this motherboard somewhere. And the CPU is heating up. It's heating up the heat pipe, so I don't think it's a thermal paste, thermal transfer problem with the CPU. Now the charging lead is cool, but the computer is off. So if I press the power button again, it starts heating up. I wonder why. I wonder if that's the right charging lead. I'm gonna unplug it. It doesn't feel quite right. I wonder if it's at the right voltage. Well, it's a different brand. It's a light on, so it's possibly from something else. It puts out 19 volts, 2.1 amps, and this laptop is rated at 19 volts, 2.1 amps. There. So maybe it is the right charger. The connector doesn't quite feel right. It feels too tight, but that could be because of some melting that's going on. See if we can see inside of the charging port. It's definitely bent. It looks damaged. Alright. I'm going to take this motherboard out and have a closer look at that power jack because I think think there's a short or something. There seems to be a problem with the power jack. It gets so hot. It's possible it's not the jack. It's possible that there is some other problem on this motherboard, but I won't know until I take a closer look. So this might actually end up being a difficult problem. I thought this was just a simple failing hard drive, clone that over, Bob's your uncle, but I think it also has a power issue. I'm nearly certain of it. Let's just measure some things here and see what we can learn. Just going to measure to make sure that this is actually putting out the right voltage. Yep. So there's one positive terminal coming out of that onto this motherboard. This is all so very small. So what's happening? Let's see. So there's a big coil there, capacitor there, 1 volt. So this is CPU power or something. And so all of this is off. There's a bit of corrosion right there. Something behind the board. What's that? It's an old board. The power jack actually looks a little bit burnt. I wonder, could it be shorting? I don't know. So what kind of resistance do we get through there? 7.6 kilo ohms. It's probably about right. I don't really know what would be expected the resistance through the 19 volt power rail. So I'm hesitating to take apart this laptop, to remove the motherboard, because it's going to be rather complicated. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna just do it. I think it needs to be done. We need to understand what's wrong. So let's go. I think I'll start with this optical drive. Well, that's a bit stuck. These are so tight. Oh my gosh. Try a bigger tip. No, it doesn't even fit. I feel like I'm over flexing when I press down too hard. But so that was very tight. Well, that's interesting. I'm gonna stick that there. Okay. So that's a ribbon cable that goes to the back side of the motherboard. I'm going to start with this graphics connector, display connector. It's very tight. It's been in there a long time. It's coming though. And then this little wire that comes across here, it's got a black dot on the top of the connector. It's taped onto the motherboard. And then this, whatever this is, I'm going to put a little mark on the top of that as well, just in case it can go in the wrong way. Now this microphone connector, well, let's get the Wi-Fi antenna disconnected first. Take out that little Wi-Fi board. So there's a little ribbon cable I didn't notice before that flips down. That's probably the trackpad, if I had to guess. Touchpad. Okay. Microphone is disconnected. And the wire is off of the motherboard. I might ground myself. I'm not moving, but just in case. So I'm going to disconnect that cable, the ribbon cable. So the writing is up here, but down where it goes in. So I think this has a latch where you slide that out, and now the cable will just pop out. So that's free. Now I'll remove this tape and the speaker connector, which I think that only goes in one way. And is there a latch? Seems like it's quite tightly held in there. Well, anyway, red's toward me. No, that's coming up. There's no latch. Okay. So we've got some ribbon cables on the other side of the board. I guess this heat sink and fan probably need to come out. And on that fan connector, the black is toward me. It's black, yellow, red. What is going on there? It's weird. I'm gonna take the heatsink off as well and just reapply the thermal paste. 4, 3, 2, 1. What? So what happened with the fan there? This flexed. Oh, it's rubber. Okay. Thermal compound. Yeah, it's okay. I'm gonna leave it on until I wipe it off to reapply it later. Now let's take out the motherboard screws. There is one in this corner, there's one up here, and there's one right here. I feel like there might be one in the middle as well. So this one's just by the CD or the optical drive SATA connector. So there's something else holding this down. Oh, there's a screw here next to the VGA connector. Is there something else down here? Something kind of squidgy. Just stuck, and then there are going to be ribbon cables under here. How are we supposed to do those? So that's the keyboard ribbon cable. It has a lot of slack on it. These, maybe I just disconnect them from the other end. Yeah. I'll do that. So I'll take this one off of here. Oh boy, let's see. This one, I guess that's the power button, which is just snapped in here. Just gonna have to take that tape up. Okay. Oh dear, now what is this? That's a card reader. Is that also snapped in place or is it screwed down? It's just snapped in place. It's got 2 clips. Oh yeah, there's another ribbon cable here that I didn't see before. So now we have this card reader and the keyboard. Alright, that's up. So now it's just the keyboard. How can I get to that? Well, that's going to be tricky to put back in, isn't it? Oh dear. Okay, well, I can lift it up like this. Okay, good. Alright. And this is a similar type of the slide clamp. So that'll pop up. Alright, so there's your motherboard out. That was easy. Oh, the disk snapshot has failed. It looks like there's... Oh, the software has given up. It's still counting unreadable sectors. I'm going to abort. Okay, so there's the power jack. There's something... Yeah, there's something broken there. That's part of the power jack, I think. Yeah, I think that's come out of the inside of the power jack, maybe? Or I guess it could be part of the case or something, but that power jack is clearly not straight. It's moved. Just gonna look at this under the microscope and see if we can spot any problems. There's the power jack. There's a switch here. I wonder if that's so I can turn it on when the board is out like this. So here's the other side of the power connector. So it looks like that positive pin that comes out of the back goes into that big some kind of a resistor or fuse. U23. And then that goes... It's very... It looks furry, doesn't it? This is quite small. Oh, it's not that small. There's hair all over it. So where does that rail go to? It's over to here. I don't know. This is the HDMI connector here. So I think maybe it's shared. It goes down to here. And that's probably, that looks like a 0 ohm resistor to me, and then it goes to the other side of the board. That's the video connector. Okay, so just around this curve we go to the other side of the board, which is, so there's the curve. The other side of the board comes up here. That looks like a huge fuse, doesn't it? What? Weird. And then straight back to the other side of the board through those little dots. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do here because, I mean, this computer comes on, but it doesn't work properly. So I'm going to plug in the HDMI and the power, see what's going on here. Probably going to overheat the CPU though if I'm not careful. Yeah, CPU is hot. I'm going to put the heat sink back on the CPU. Too big. A tiny bit on there. Alright. I want to look at the back of this board while it's heating up like this. I don't know what I want to do with this multimeter yet. Now, alright, so there's the BIOS. I can see that CPU fan is on. I mean, it's, you know, the heatsink is warm. It's not hot, so it's cooling efficiently. I mean, it's getting hot, but, you know, it's cooling. CPU feels fine. Everything there is fine. There was heat over here that made me uncomfortable when it was in the laptop. I can feel heat from this DC jack. I think there's a problem. There's definitely a problem in the DC jack. Can I cleanly solder a wire on here and get power in directly? I probably can. I feel like that's okay. Let's see if I still have the same impedance as before. Had 7.5 kilo ohms or something through the board. Alright, I'm going to try that. So I'll just hook up my bench power supply here. I'm going to connect ground and then positive, and we'll go 19 volts. Maybe lower the amps a little bit. Okay, so it's on. It's drawing 0.014 amps from the power supply. That's good. We'll press the power button. You can see it's drawing less than an amp. The fan's on. So right around an amp. This is good. The DC in jack is not warm at all. I'm going to plug the battery in and see if it charges. And see what that does to the current. Oh boy. Which way was which? So when this was laying over like that, and this goes in like that, so it's like this. I need to be 100% sure though. Yeah, When the board was flipped over and the battery was away from me, it's like that. Now it's charging 1.8 amps. There's still no heat over here. There's a little bit of heat on the CPU, but it's not bad. This is all just warm and it feels right. Okay. I'm gonna turn it off. Okay. I'm gonna plug the drive in and I'm going to see if the installation problem persists. But I only have one USB port, so I need a USB hub. Okay, so I'll plug in my USB hub to here, and then I'll plug in, so this is just a little Sabrent 4-port USB hub. I'll turn off those other ones, I'll plug that in, and I'll plug in my Windows 10 installation media at the other end. So we've got drive, installation media, keyboard, battery. We don't really need the battery. And we'll turn on the power supply. So 0.014 amps, just under an amp, 0.78. Now there's 1 amp. It's going to try to boot off of that SSD, which is not going to work. So I'm going to reboot and hit F7, boot options, Kingston Data Traveler. I think I'm going to disconnect the battery because that's just adding risk and complexity to this and drawing twice the current that we need to. So it was charging. If it was drawing an extra 0.8 amps for the battery, I don't like that little flicker. There was a little flicker of static across the middle of the screen briefly, which tells me that there's something that the installer isn't compatible with, or something that's wrong with the graphics output on this board. I could try VGA if the HDMI doesn't work. You know, if it locks up again, I might do that. I might switch to VGA and just to narrow it down and see if the problem is with the HDMI output for some reason. It's right over by the power connector, right next to the power connector, literally. So it's conceivable that if there's a problem with that power jack. So there's no heat here at all now. That wire is perfectly capable of 19 volts, 1 amp, 2 amps, whatever. A little bit of heat in the CPU, not bad. I do accept the terms. Now, let's just delete these partitions. And we'll install on the unallocated space. Now, we didn't make it much further than this before we got a blue screen before. Just going to watch the current on the power supply. It's still 0.8 amps. I jumped up to 1 amp. Okay. It seems to be working. to plug in the network. Might as well get this thing going, get it updated. What's the heat over here? Alright, clearly Windows is running fine on here. I've ordered the power jack. I'm just going to run Windows updates and let this thing, once the new part comes in, I'll put the power jack in. And so we'll resume at that point. Okay, so the power jack finally came in for this motherboard. So I'm just going to make sure that it's the right part. It looks a little bit different, but I think it's a correct fit. Just the existing motherboard has black plastic around the power socket. This one doesn't. It's in the right place. That's the wrong power adapter. This is a light-on power adapter. I might see if I have the right one. So it's 19 volts. This one's 2.37 amps. The light-on one is 1 amp. Oh no, 2.1 amp. Okay. The Toshiba power supply works better. So now I'm just going to check under the microscope to see if it looks like it's going to fit. So I soldered that hot wire on, that red wire on, in order to bypass the socket. So this socket has a foot toward the front. Maybe that's upside down. It is, okay. So when I come up through the board, I'll see that there are 4 connectors, basically 4 feet, 2 on either side. And those line up. And then there's one on the back. So let me just heat up my soldering iron. Probably going to need my air station as well. I mean, I can see. So I'm going to go in from the other side. I'm going to start soldering. I'm going to try to remove all that solder. I might replace it with regular solder because this might be low or lead-free high-temp solder. Just going to put a little flux on there and see if I can replace the solder that's on there. Yeah, that seemed to melt out of there pretty easily. Although I might just be melting the flux, I don't know. No, I feel like that melted the solder. Let's see if I can get any out with my wick. Wow, that's working really well. Seems to be anyway. Not sure about this one. Can't really get in there very easily. Let's flip that over and see what it looks like. Looks like I've cleaned out all but that one. I'm going to take this jumper wire off of here. Well, it's come off because I got all the solder out there. It's just these two here. I just can't quite get in there. Yeah, not quite. Almost. Okay. No, I'm going to take this off first. So I need to let that cool down a little bit, and then I'll put some Cap-10 tape around the other connectors that are nearby. Okay, so I've taped off the neighboring connector, and I'm going to try this again. I'm going to turn this so that I can hold the connector while I heat it. It's just not going. Rethink. I feel like this tape might be deflecting some of the heat from this connector. Yeah. Okay. So that came out. It was brutal. It did not look right coming out, but it's out. So let's see. Did I do any damage? I'm just gonna clean these up. I'm gonna go down a little bit on my temperature. So this sort of ripped here a little bit, I think. But that's just it's a ground, and there are 3 others. So I think we're okay. Yeah. Hopefully this one's all right. Because that's really the one that matters. Ooh, that doesn't quite look right, does it? What's going on with that? Alright, I'm going to see if the new one will fit through there. Let's suck some more of this solder off of here, actually. And are those open as well? It's covered in flux. Yeah. Okay, let's clean this off. Okay, so we've got the old one out, and the new one should slot in this way. Hopefully these holes are big enough and clean enough. I don't think they're clean enough. There we go. Okay, so that popped in there. There. So now that's flat on the board. And if I look at the board, if I look at the end of the board, I can see that there's the Ethernet HDMI, and then the power sticks up a little bit higher, and that's the way it looks on the case as well. So I'm going to solder it from this side initially, just to tack it down. I'd say that's pretty well tacked. And I think the positive I'm going to just do on the other side the way it's supposed to be done. There. Might be a little much. Maybe I'll take that off and do it again. Doesn't look good. It's too much. It's the wrong tip, I think. Will I change tips? Yeah, I'm gonna change tips. That's actually probably okay. Just can't get in there. It's awfully big. I'm not sure that there's a circuit going through it, but we'll see. Okay, there's not a lot of flux on this side. Turn it over. I mean, this looks terrible. This big blob in there. That looks better. Wonder what that looks like on the other side now. Yeah, it's okay. Alright. Okay, let's test. Okay, so it's not the prettiest job in the world, but let's see. So we have ground there, power there, power there. Okay, so this should turn on. Yep. There we go. Let's get this back into the computer and back to the customer. Okay. It's been a while since I've worked on this. I can see that the video connector is here, and so that probably goes in to the motherboard here. So all of this is going to go like that. There's this little daughter board thing here. Okay. I think this is right. Yeah, the battery goes there. Heatsink. There's just so many ribbon cables. So there's this, I think, if I remember right, there were, oh my gosh. This keyboard ribbon cable is going to be the biggest problem, potentially. So let me, how does that even go in? Oh yeah, it's one of those slider ones. So I need this to go, wow, how awkward is that? So maybe if I just lay it here and then bend it round, I can hold it open and slide it in. Oh, okay. That has slid in and it's latched. Okay. This thing goes like that. So the Wi-Fi antenna there. Now, what is that? Oh, that's a ribbon cable that goes all the way over there. Comes up here. I think there's another one, another ribbon cable back here. Gonna disconnect that fan so I can fold it up and see what I'm doing here. Yeah, because there was another ribbon cable here, wasn't there? And then there is a vacant ribbon cable there and a vacant one there. So that's connected on the back of the board already. Alright, so those are the only two ribbon cables. Oh man, thanks to Big Clive. I can't twist a wire without thinking of Careless Whisker and immediately getting a George Michael song stuck in my head. Because he's so funny. Big Clive, that is, not George Michael. So that goes in there. This goes in there. Or does it fold over like this and go in there? These were taped down. This came over and went in this way, which feels upside down to me, but that's the way it came out. Come on now. Really? Yes. I'm just gonna force this open while I slide this in there. Maybe I'll force it open with these. There we go. Okay, that's locked. And okay, so now this one, same deal. Force it open and hold it open while I slide the cable in. This one's a little bit trickier because I don't have as much slack. Come on now. Ooh, look at that. It's in. Nice. So that's in, that's in. I can get this antenna connected. This cable went up under here for some reason, and the white dot was facing up. So that's the wee microphone on the front of the board. Okay. I don't know why I popped that out. What is that anyway? LEDs, okay. Alright. Okay, I think I've got everything attached. I'm just going to put these motherboard screws back in. I was reviewing the video of taking this apart because it's been a week or so. And so I just wanted to see where these screws go. One up top. And one here, I think. Alright, that's the motherboard in. Okay, I think the drive can go back in. It goes this way. And I think it was these two screws here holding it in. And then the optical drive, this goes like this and has, looks like two screws. I'm not sure about that. There's one screw here. That's this screw. And then the optical drive connects into here. And there are, oh, actually two of those screws aren't actually for the optical drive. They're for this plate. So let me put those in first. And this wee board. Oh, come on. I think it's not quite right there. Yeah, there we go. And then one screw to hold the drive down. Wait, let's make sure that drive is as low as it should be, and then everything is copacetic here. Yeah, okay. And I feel like some of this tape is no longer sticky. Okay. Alright, what else? Oh, this has to go in first. Oh, come on, unclip. There we go. This needs to go over the audio jacks. There we go. That fell into place. Just gonna tuck this little tag inside. Looks good. Now, what looks like 24 screws. 20 screws maybe. We'll start by the hinge. That's not 100% lined up. Why not? All right. And we have Windows 10. See if we wake up. It's charging the battery. Just want to check the camera. The camera light is on the lid. The little blue light, I don't know if you can see that, is on. So let's see. It's very strange that the camera light is on when the camera is on, but also when the camera is off. So let me go into settings, camera privacy settings, just to make sure there's nothing watching the camera. This is a fresh install of Windows, so there wouldn't be. Skype does. That's it. Okay. Well, that's it. That was fun. Thanks for watching.